Good morning, Ramblers, and welcome to another weekend and indeed another instalment of Reese Rambles, my weekly wrap-up of all the comings and goings, movings and shakings and whatnot in the worlds of retro computing, retro gaming and all of that lovely stuff. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you've probably no doubt noticed the horrific mess on the desk in front of me. And no, this isn't me trying to do a bit of an exclusive behind the scenes thing or whatever. This is me leaving my ramble until the very last minute, and I'm very aware that I need to get something out there. But I've been having so much fun playing with this project over the past week or so, and I've bought lots of bits and I've got various things set up, and it's all looking quite exciting so far. But of course, I don't want my audio listeners, sorry, I'm just whacking all the cables and things. I really am just buried in the middle of a big pile of junk here. But of course, I don't want my audio listeners to miss out on the experience either. So I will just briefly describe what I have here. So I have a Mac Mini in front of me, and it is a 2006 Intel Mac Mini. And it's my 2006 Intel Mac Mini. I've actually owned this thing since new, and it was in a box in the garage, and it's in a complete and utter state. And there is quite an interesting story behind that as well, which you will discover once this video goes out. And yeah, as you can see on the monitor, I'm running Steam, although I've not quite logged in yet. And perhaps most interestingly, there is a graphics card here in some kind of external dock. Oh, the screen's just gone off. Actually, that will actually help with the ISO and stuff with the camera. But yeah, there's also a graphics card here in some kind of external dock that says GeForce GTX 750 Ti on it. And yeah, this is connected to this. I will explain how it works in the upcoming video. Hopefully it's not too far off. I was hoping to get it all recorded and done today, but I'm just kind of on the cusp of getting something interesting working. It's probably not going to work, and I'll probably be asking for some help in the video from people who are much more knowledgeable than me. But it's so close. It's so close. So I want to show you what I've done so far. Of course, this isn't the kind of the be all and the end all of it. I've done a load of other stuff as well, which I'm very keen to show you. And I have already recorded the first 10 minutes of the video, so it's all very interesting. But anyway, that's enough about me. I'm just talking about what I know at the moment. Which is my current project. But I guess with that out of the way and the mess addressed, I mean that's another random GeForce graphics card I've got lying around, as well as some other PCI Express devices. Let's just dive into the very first story, because it's about my favourite game, and I think because of the current setup, you can't really see that. You can't really see the Doom shrine behind me, but of course, it's about Doom. Some exciting news about Doom, and indeed, the first two Doom games, and it says here, are getting an enhanced bundle. I can tell you with some confidence that as of the time of recording this is now out on Steam. And the really cool thing is that if you own the original Doom and or Doom 2 on Steam, you'll get this new version automatically, which is really cool. And of course, it's not the first time they've messed around with Doom on Steam. There was that Bethesda enhanced version that they kind of unleashed on everyone a few years back, wasn't there? Where they forced everyone to log into Bethesda.net, and then there was a massive, outcry about it, and they reversed that decision. But yeah, I don't know if I played that version all that much. But anyway, Doom and Doom 2, and guess who's involved with this? Oh yes, Night Dive and Machine Games, two of my favourite companies at the moment. So, Doom and Doom 2 are being combined into one enhanced bundle. The bundle includes all previously released editions, as well as a new Legacy of Rust episode, a whole new episode, with single-player levels developed by id Software, Night Dive Studios, and Machine Games. Now, that is exciting, because those Machine Games episodes that they made for, obviously, the Quake and the Quake 2 remasters were excellent. They were very, very good. And of course, they're the people that brought us like the new Wolfenstein 3D games and stuff as well. So very, very high on my list of game developers. Other improvements include the ability to choose between the older soundtracks and new tracks composed by Andrew Hulshult, of course, very well known for his game music. I think he did the music for Rust. Was it Rust? Something like that. Yeah, I think he works with like New Blood and people like that on their games. Very cool game music. 4K support, because of course you have to be able to enjoy Doom in 4K. Cross-platform play for up to 16 players and more. The Doom and Doom 2 bundle is available for $10 across Xbox Series, Xbox One, Windows PC, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and the Nintendo Switch. Sadly, not on the on the Mac Mini, though, I don't think. But two classic games from the roots of first-person shooters are getting even better. And of course, this is because QuakeCon is on at the moment, which is the big Quake and Doom and id Software themed exhibition. That's the word I was looking for. And show, of course, which is going on at the moment. It includes 4K, 120 FPS support, and the games are running on the Kex engine, which of course is Night Dive's engine, which they use for all of their remastered games. Like Rise of the Triad and Quake. I've mentioned all of those. New accessibility options like font changes, text-to-speech, speech-to-text, and more. And of course, it just mentions here. Oh, there we go. So Andrew Hulshult worked with id on the soundtrack of Doom Eternal's Ancient Gods DLC, as well as the other things that I mentioned a moment ago. So, in addition to previously released levels, which includes Sigil, I believe, and Sigil 2. Well worth checking out. You can go and get those from John Romero. This episode has been co-developed by id Software, Night Dive Studios, and Machine Games. I think this is just going around in circles, isn't it? That's the state of journalism at the moment. But, of course, there is Doom The Dark Ages, which is the new instalment in the new Doom games. Of course, Doom 2016, excellent game. Doom Eternal, excellent game. I'm guessing Dark Ages is going to be excellent. Of course, they've gone down a slightly different path with that one, with that medieval shield and cape and all that stuff. So that was very interesting. But yeah, classic Doom. Get your classic Doom on. Now, I did have some feedback on this from somebody on my Discord server, and I'm really sorry I've not actually made a note of your name, but I did have some feedback from someone that apparently it felt quite laggy, and that is interesting. I haven't played it myself, but I am going to check it out in the coming week, of course, and I will report back. But hey, more Doom can only be a good thing, and of course, doesn't stop the original releases from existing. You can always go back and play those if you like on your original hardware, or indeed DOSBox and one of the many other options for playing Doom. But Doom, it's Doom. It's finally got the Night Dive treatment, and that's got to be something to be celebrated. And that's a coming together of many of my interests. So, last week I was talking about my Pico Mem video, which had just gone out, and of course the Pico Mem is a brand new device from a really lovely chap called Freddie V, which adds a Raspberry Pi Pico to your 8-bit ISA-equipped computer, like the old IBM XTs and ATs, and in my case that Atari PC-3, which I tested it out on. And of course, this isn't about me. I'm not going to be talking about my video again, but that is an example of a device that uses the Raspberry Pi Pico, which is a really cool low-cost microcontroller board from the Raspberry Pi Foundation. Not to be confused with the actual Raspberry Pi itself, which is basically a full-blown ARM-based computer. Still a very cool thing, but very much along the same lines of their ethos with all the expandability, connectability, GPIO, and all of that stuff. So the Pico has enabled so many awesome projects. Of course, there's the Pico Gus as well, which is in the same vein, but allows you to emulate lots of sound cards and things. Keep an eye out for that on my channel at some point in the near future. But yes, the Raspberry Pi Pico, a wonderful thing. And of course, it's like a $5. It costs next to nothing, and they do the Pico W, which has built-in Wi-Fi, which is even better. You can add Wi-Fi to all sorts of things that were never intended to have it, much like the Pico Mem does for those old computers. But of course, I'm not here to talk about my video, and I'm not really here to talk about the Pico Mem and the Pico Gus, but I am here to talk about the microcontroller that makes those projects possible. There we go. That's what I was getting at. So this is the Raspberry Pi Pico 2. I know, right? Who comes up with these names? Genius stuff. It says here on the Raspberry Pi website, available now for $5. So what is the Raspberry Pi Pico 2? Well, you might have guessed correctly that this is the follow-up to the original Raspberry Pi Pico. So it has a higher core clock speed. I'm reading this from the raspberrypi.com. Double the memory, more powerful ARM cores, optional RISC-V cores, which is very exciting, new security features, and upgraded interfacing capability. Raspberry Pi Pico 2 delivers a significant performance boost while retaining compatibility with earlier members of the Raspberry Pi Pico series. And indeed, it is a drop-in replacement, so you can run basically any kind of software that was designed for the original Pico. I think there is very, very minor tweaking involved, I think, but it is very, very minor from what I've heard, just some early reports of people who've managed to get their hands on them. But hardware-wise, it is literally just a drop-in replacement. It's pin compatible and everything else, which is great. And it says here the Raspberry Pi Pico 2 is powered by RP2350, which is their new high-performance secure microcontroller. Of course, the original being the RP2040. Every aspect of the design has been upgraded, from the CPU cores to our unique PIO interfacing subsystem. We've introduced a comprehensive security architecture built around ARM Trust Zone for Cortex-M, and new low-power states and package options expand the range of addressable applications. There are a couple of different versions of this. There's one with on a different size board with a different GPIO setup as well. I'm not reading that very awkwardly constructed sentence from the Raspberry Pi website. That is all straight off the top of my own head. So specs are, you've got the dual ARM Cortex M33 or dual Hazard 3 processors at 150 megahertz, 520k of on-chip SRAM, software and hardware compatible with Raspberry Pi Pico 1, drag-and-drop programming, castellated modules, so of course just like the original, robust and fully documented security features. They're really big, really pushing the security aspects of this. Hardware SHA 256. But I think the thing that's exciting to me is RISC-V, which is, it's a CPU architecture that's open source. So obviously we've got ARM, which is quite close to that. It is a RISC, or a reduced instruction set computing CPU architecture. And of course, that's what's in all of your mobile, or most of your mobile devices and stuff like that. And indeed, with Windows on ARM and Apple Silicon and stuff like that, it is kind of starting to make moves into the desktop world as well, which is great because it's at very low power. And RISC-V is very similar to that, but it's open source. Anyone can make a RISC-V CPU, and it's a collaborative effort. And it's been a very, very long time coming. I mean, I remember reading about this 10, 15, maybe getting on for 20 years ago. Somebody's probably going to call me out in the comments on that, but just straight off the top of my head. But something that I've kind of been following on and off, and every time it pops up, I think, oh yeah, RISC-V, that's a cool thing. And yeah, here's an actual device that's kind of thrusting it into the mainstream. Of course, it still has those original ARM cores on it, but it also has the RISC-V cores, and you can run stuff on those independently. And there's some speculation and stuff that you'll be able to run all of those different sort of CPUs and cores together in parallel and have them all talking to each other. I don't think there's any kind of proof of concept software that's shown that in action yet, but that is very exciting. And the way that I discovered this was that I actually went onto YouTube the other day. And I just happened to catch, evidently as the embargo lifted, I just happened to catch the exact moment because there was a new video from Jeff Geerling, a really fantastic channel, a guy I've been following for the longest time. And yeah, it had been, this video had been up for about 30 seconds or something when it popped up on my YouTube homepage, and he really does an excellent overview of the new hardware, the new software, how it all works, and he does indeed do some testing with it. I think he had an issue with the new low power mode. I think that was quite a big focus of his testing, but yeah, other than that, it is all looking very promising, and he's much better qualified to talk about this and to tell you all about it than I am. It's an 8-minute video, and yeah, if you're not subscribed to his channel already, you should be, because he covers all sorts of interesting hardware projects and things. So I will leave it at that, and of course I will link the video in the usual places if you want to go and check that out and find out what that is all about. But yeah, new Raspberry Pi hardware I think is always something exciting and something to be celebrated, because they're always coming up with quite cool and interesting stuff. So Raspberry Pi Pico 2, links down in the description as always. So just using my own content as a bit of a jumping off point for these stories, because why not? Why not stick with what you know, as they say. A while back, I released a video all about the PC-88. The NEC PC-9821 is the specific model that I have. Of course, a legendary series of Japanese computers, and not just PCs. That's the mistake that I made when I released that video, but I seem to have been forgiven for that one, so thank you, PC-98 community. Put out an updated version of that video. That's a whole different story. But of course, the PC-98 was kind of the follow-up from the PC-88. I say kind of because it was a completely different architecture, and they weren't actually released all that far apart. I know people I think the assumption to make, if you're not familiar with those systems, is that, there was the PC-88 and then 10 years later came the PC-98, but that's not the case at all. Anyway, I covered all of that in that video, so I'm not going to go over it again. But if you are interested in checking out the PC-88, the predecessor to that machine, and arguably perhaps the more legendary machine, although they both have pretty legendary status, but the 88 is indeed where it all started, with its Z80 CPU and stuff, you can now get, and this story comes to us from timeextension.com, a classic edition of the PC-88, a little teeny weeny working version of this, like these micro console things that you get, the SNES Mini and the PlayStation 1. Well, there's all sorts of, there's the Atari one as well. I should probably talk about the Atari one. But so the story is this Pasocom PC-8801 Mark II SR will be the third in a series of retro reissues, which originally started under HAL Laboratory and also includes the Pasocom Mini MZ80C, reproduction of Sharp's MZ80C, of course, and the Pasocom Mini PC-8001, a reproduction of NEC's PC-8001. Actually, I said the PC-88 was where it all started, but actually maybe we could go with the 8001. Let's not get too deep into Japanese computer lore here, because I'm not all that confident on that topic. But the body is being manufactured by the Model Kit Company, Aoshima Cultural Teaching Materials Co. Limited, and will be a one-quarter recreation of the NEC's original PC-8801 Mark II SR, which was the one to have because it had the awesome sound chip in it, didn't it? Based on my limited knowledge of these things. 99.5 millimeters wide by 85.7 deep and 31 millimeters high, and seems to be based on the 8801 Mark II SR Model 30, featuring two 5-inch floppy disk drives. And here's the cool bit: you can insert and eject miniature discs similar to the original machine. I'm guessing those discs don't actually contain any games or software or anything, but still, tiny little disk drives to play with. I mean, what's not to like? And they've got the the little locking levers on them and stuff as well, as you would expect from a 5¼ inch. So that's going to be fun to tinker with. Also mentions HDMI for video output, of course, a micro SD slot, headphone jack, USB-C port for power, and USB 3 Type A and USB 2 Type A for connecting a keyboard. So you can plug a full-size keyboard into this thing. And this is in addition to a speaker built into the unit, which Pasocom's miniaturized version of the PC-8001 was released without. The announcement goes on to reveal the machine will emulate the basic specs of the original 8801 Mark II SR. It goes into the CPU details and stuff. Oh yeah, and the Yamaha YM2203 sound. That's that legendary sound chip that I mentioned. We'll also introduce YM2608 Soundboard 2 functionality 2, which can support a greater number of sound sources for enhanced audio. So they've gone all out on this. I mean, this is for the proper PC-88 connoisseur. 10 games will be released with the miniaturized machine, with players also being able to load others to the machine via micro SD. It will also cost 33,000 yen and is expected to be released in spring next year. So there we go, 33,000 yen. So what is that? That's 176 British pounds to you and me. So I probably won't be picking up one of those at that price. You can actually get an original for not much, not much more than that. But hey, still a cool little toy, isn't it? So I'm very, very conscious that I am running out of time to get this week's episode recorded. So we'll just do a couple more bits and we'll do a couple of my regular segments now. No videos to talk about this week. I haven't released anything. I've been very, very busy on this crazy project and also catching up after all my various holidays and stuff. Not that I can really complain about that. But I did have one piece of feedback from these rambles and indeed my recent appearances on This Week in Retro. And that is concerning water. Believe it or not. Now, I can feel my mouth getting dry just talking about this, and it's something I'd noticed on my recordings, and it's something that someone else had noticed as well. And they just had to, send me a very friendly message. It's been received in the manner that it was intended, and they're absolutely right. I get a very dry mouth when I'm recording here at the studio, and there are a few reasons for that. One of them being that I have the air conditioning on all the time at the moment because it is very hot. And this particular, this studio in particular is a bit of a sun trap, and the window does get very, very hot, and it just heats the whole of the rest of the room up, which isn't ideal. The other major problem being that I don't have a source of drinking water here. If you've been following these for a while, you know the story with the office next door, and of course there was a sink in there that I was using to top my water bottle up and stuff, and now they're using that as a meeting room. I don't have access to that room anymore. There are toilets here, but the sinks are really, really tiny, and I can't quite get my bottle in under the tap. Not only that, but it's toilet water. And I appreciate it's the same tap water that comes out of all of the taps, but still, there's a load of people going in there, doing their business. I'm not sure if I want to be filling up my bottle that I'm drinking from, inches from where that's happening. I'm sure you'll understand. But I did make a purchase. They did prompt me to make a purchase, and that purchase was this. Monster water bottle. I mean, look at this. This is 2.2 litres. Although, well, it's not 2.2 litres, it's 3.5 litres. I ordered the 2.2 litre version from Amazon, and I seem to have received a 3.5 litre version, which is apparently 112 ounces. So that's a monster, hang on. And I filled this up yesterday, and it's been in the fridge overnight, so it's nice and cold as well, which is great. So hopefully I won't be suffering from the dry mouth quite as much in future recordings, because I'm going to have this with me at all times, and I'm going to be able to take it home and top it up and bring it back to me. And that's supposedly a whole day's worth of water. Not that I'm ever here all day, but there you go. So thank you ever so much for that suggestion. Naming no names, but yeah, it was a good one, and it's long overdue that I got something like that. I should get like a little fridge and a microwave and stuff, and then I'll never have to leave. But yeah, the other bit of personal news, I guess, is that I've discovered a new game this week, and I wanted to point this out to you because I'm liking this a lot. This is really fun. It's really twee, it's really sweet, and it's very British as well. You may have heard of this, you may not, but I want to bring this game to more people's attention because of all of the above. So let's switch to this. Oh no, that's my video of the week. That's a spoiler. Let's look at that in a moment. But yeah, this is a game called Thank Goodness You're Here, and it's published by, I don't think it was developed by them, but it's published by the same people that did the Untitled Goose Game a few years ago, which I remember very well. I really love that game, of course. But yeah, you play this little balding, tiny little person, and you're wandering around this northern town in England, and this is just full. I mean, if you like weird, camp, carry-on, British-type humour, northern humour, that kind of thing, this is going to be right up your street. If you don't know what that is and you're very confused by the whole thing, you're probably also going to enjoy the game just because of how utterly bizarre it is. And I watched this review the other day, and to be fair, it does give away quite a bit. It does claim that there aren't any spoilers in here, and admittedly there are some quite weird bits that aren't covered in this video, but yeah, I love this. I've been having loads of fun playing this game. I've only kind of done the first couple of bits because I've just been so busy with other stuff, but I wanted to point that out to people because I've been enjoying it, and I think if you enjoy my rambles and you enjoy my thoroughly British style of content, you'll probably enjoy this too. It's quite the work of art, it really is. But yeah, moving on to my video of the week. Anyway, kazoo time. Short one, because I've not got much time this week. The video that I watched this week that I found this really, really interesting. This is one that I put on that I was going to have on in the background when I was working on other stuff, and I actually got so distracted by it that I just ended up sitting down and watching the whole thing. And this is Usagi Electric, one of my favourite channels, and as you can probably see if you're a regular viewer of his, he's had a haircut, but yeah, he took a trip to Japan recently, and of course, all the YouTubers are going to Japan and they're poking around all of the, all of the retro electronics shops and stuff, and doing the same things, and it's fine, it's interesting. I watch them all, but they do get a little bit repetitive. But this one, as you might expect, is completely different. So he actually goes around. Of course, most of this is presented from the Japanese countryside, which is very beautiful. But he actually goes and checks out some mainframe computers and goes and pokes around those and talks about the history of them. Of course, he does the usual Japanese stuff as well that we come to expect from these things. But it's a bit of a mix of everything. There's mainframe computers, there's shopping for retro bargains, there's caves, there's drifting. It's a pretty action-packed half an hour, and it's a really good kind of summary of the kind of stuff that I enjoyed as well when I went and checked out Japan. Something just a little bit different, and nice to hear the story behind these weird mainframes and things, which he also went and had a poke around. So I enjoyed this video a lot, and it's also one of my favourite channels, as I say. If you haven't checked it out, Usagi Electric. Of course, he also appears on some of the VCF panels and stuff, so you'll probably be familiar with him. But yeah. Oh, look, his hair's grown back. Some good continuity in this video. So yeah, definitely go and check it out. I enjoyed this video. It's nice, it's relaxing, it's educational, and it shows you some interesting stuff that you may not have seen before, which is what I like. So I've got to be out of here in about half an hour, and in that time I've got to get this edited, I've got to get the audio version exported, I've got to get it uploaded to YouTube and to Spotify for podcasters, which pushes it out to all those other podcasting platforms. I've got to do the description, the title, the thumbnail, the chapters. Yeah, why am I still talking? I don't know. But thank you ever so much for joining me for this week's ever so slightly shorter ramble. I do apologise. I appreciate it's not the only shortened ramble that we've had in recent weeks. Of course, I will be on This Week in Retro once more this week, so that will be out in about 10 hours' time. So go check that out. I hope you enjoyed my debut on that podcast last week. I must admit I was quite nervous going into recording that, but I think Duncan did an amazing job with the editing. This week, again, a bit of an interesting task for Duncan, but not for those reasons, because we had a guest on, and he was quite the character. He's a good friend of mine anyway. It's someone who I sort of chat to behind the scenes and stuff. Someone I have had a chat to as well in the past. It's not my place to kind of give these things away, but you've got 10 hours to work it out. But yeah, I really did enjoy recording this week's episode, and the other two guys ganged up on me and made my life difficult. And I'm not quite sure if that's going to come across in the final version, but maybe I'll have some behind the scenes stuff to show you after that's come out. So that's that. Yeah, go check that out if you want more of me. And I really need to go. So thank you ever so much for joining me. And I shall see you again, same place, same time next week. Goodbye.